Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Le Rouge Rugby podcast, focusing on real Canadian rugby. It's a new year, and yet we are back. We have so much to talk about since we last saw you guys. You know, there have been new signings, there have been departures, teams have announced their squads, teams have announced their kit. One sporting league has changed their identity entirely. There's more rules that have been announced by World Rugby. But let's keep it simple. Let's start, first of all, with my co-host, Derek Brissett. Derek, how are your
Hey,
holidays?
they were good. They were very, very busy. Shout out to all the couples of divorced parents having to go through minimum fourth Christmas and all holiday related dinners. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it was pretty busy in that sense. There was also one nice thing though, my brother from BC lives out in BC now. He flew home for Christmas for like the first time in like 8 or so years. So that was nice to kind of have that was nice to have him back. So yeah, it was really busy, but also a lot of fun at the same time, which I feel like is pretty much peak holiday season vibes most of the time, anyways. How about yourself? Did you get up to anything? Any cool rugby gifts find their way under the tree?
Well, this is the thing. I flew back to the UK to celebrate Christmas with my family, and that's the first time I've been able to do that in 5 years.
Nice.
So that was lovely. And as such, I only had like the one suitcase. My girlfriend had another, but they quickly got filled with gifts and that was the rules. Then, like, if you're gonna give us anything, it has to be light. It has to be able to pack in a suitcase. It
Yeah,
has to be taken over.
my brother said the same thing.
The most memorable gift I would say is that my holiday got extended by a day because my flight that was originally meant to go to Iceland and then Toronto got cancelled, and I got put onto a flight to Lisbon in Portugal. So I got to celebrate New Year's Eve in Lisbon at a hotel just a few hundred meters from the airport. And
Nice, nice.
well, that's one word to describe it. And then flew Air Canada from Lisbon back to Toronto, and then the usual rigmarole of adjusting your body clock, making sure that you're not falling asleep at 5 in the afternoon or anything like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, flying back to Toronto, I think on that note, it's best that we start with talking about what's been happening with the Toronto Arrows since we've been away. I mean, we did have that great interview with Pete Smith, and in fact, we've got another interview coming up in this episode, so stick around for that. But let's talk about some other arrivals that have been coming into Toronto, besides myself, obviously. So it was announced that there has been a trade with the San Diego Legion. The Legion has received salary cap, and in return, the Toronto Arrows have received the playing rights to MLR 2021 champion Corey Thomas. And I think this is a fantastic get. So it seems that from the dispersal and expansion draft that went on, the Arrows, were looking to get a Canadian name on it. They got Lindsay Stevens, and Lindsay was then traded to Chicago. And so, getting another Canadian name this time with Corey Thomas, working out that trade with San Diego, it seems to have worked for both parties there, getting a guy who's already won the MLR Shield, who's, making absolute waves for the Canadian national men's team. Looks fantastic. Also, we have a new signing, Nick Hildebrand, who has returned from sabbatical, and he'll be linking up with the Arrows soon. And probably the latest and most interesting signing is Ramon Ayaza from Chile, who has been playing for Soyo Angolan 15 Charente in the D2 in France. He's been playing in France for I think like nearly close to a decade. So a wealth of experience coming over, and if Chile had to knock out Canada to get there, and if Ramon plays for Chile in the World Cup, then technically Canada are playing in the World Cup because playing for the Arrows makes you an honorary Canadian. So
Is that how that works?
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely like Gaston Mires. If he plays for Uruguay, then Uruguay is technically Canada as well. That is 100% how it works. But I don't make the rules. I'm just saying that's how it works.
I think though, like Uruguay is, I feel like everybody's second favorite team, unless you're Uruguayan, then they're your first favorite team. But I feel like for everyone else around the world, the way that entire squad kind of carries themselves, especially after the 2019 World Cup, and they seem
Yeah.
to be like everyone's second favorite team.
Well, they are America's one as well. So,
Yeah,
they've
good.
definitely come on leaps and bounds since I think it was in 2015 when they celebrated as though they won the World Cup when they just scored a try.
Yeah.
That's how far these guys have come along. However, we also had on Boxing Day from our friends over at America's Rugby News, we had an MLR off-season update on the Toronto Arrows. Hope those guys, hope you've been enjoying your holiday season as well. Obviously, being able to dish out articles on Boxing Day and saying how the Arrows have gone on. The big news being that long-term general manager and COO Mark Winokur has stepped down and he has been replaced by Tim Matthews, who is the now vice president and general manager of the Toronto Arrows as well. But there's also been some quite a long list of departures as well. Now, I'm going to read out all the names that America's Rugby News has listed as departures. Some of these we already know. Some of these have basically been announced by them. So we have Cole Keith, Andrew Quattrin, and Spencer Jones are off to the New England Free Jacks. Roland Foley has joined with the Seattle Seawolves. Siaki Vikilani is part of the long list for the training camp for the America Raptors. We have Sam Mace, who is playing for Leeds Tykes in the UK. We have Will Kelly, who is playing for Chinnor in the UK as well. The following list is now just list of departures. They haven't been announced as with a club as of recording. So we have Kyle Bailey, Toma de la Vega, Ollie Knott, Marcello Wainwright, Taitusi Vikilani, Chris Bell, Andrew Ferguson, Weta Tafuga, Denon Robinson Bartlett, Matthew Hood, and Gaston Mires. Now, admittedly, some of these guys had also basically posted on social media that they had making a indication that they were leaving the team. So some of these aren't, completely out of left field, but that is quite a long list of departures. But, if this is where their rugby journey ends, we are obviously very grateful for their time in Arrow's colours. And, once an Arrow, always an Arrow. So we thank them for the stuff. But as we've seen with Avery Oiterman, guys can take some time off. They can come back. Doors always open if all the stars align. And, I'm sure all the fans at least would be more than willing to welcome all these guys back.
Yeah, so absolutely, man. That's quite a bit to. Do you want to dive into anything a little bit deeper? That's quite a hefty wrap up for. So what happens when you take about a month off? I guess.
I guess so. I think so. Obviously, Razor Ramon Ayaza is quite a signing, I think. Interestingly, in the article of American Rugby News, they say that a third hooker is needed, and they found that third hooker, so that seems to work out quite well for the Arrows, and definitely interesting to see what Ramon will. What impact he'll have with the team, and it's definitely be interesting to see. He's even spoken that he's been speaking with the Arrows coach Francisco de Formes regularly. He's been chatting with Pete, the Arrows staff, so and his objective is to play for Chile, Canada too, at the World Cup next year, and believes that playing in MLR will give him the best chance. And incredible resume as well. He helped SA15 gain promotion to the D2 last season. So he's had a couple of injuries, but he says that his body's feeling great, ready for a new challenge at a high level. And like I said, a near decade of experience in French rugby. He's even played for Salknum, and he's played alongside his brother at SA15 as well. So yeah, I think that he's a great signing to have. I think it's going to be really interesting what he does. As for the departures, there are some that obviously I think for all the other teams, so like guys that have been signed for another teams, we've already reported on it, like Sam Mace, Will Kelly, New England, Canada South, whatever you want to call them. Chris Bell, he was signed as injury cover for the cursed scrum half position of the 2022 season. Played one game and got injured in that game as well.
Actually played really well in that game before.
He did play really well, and it was. I think what was really heartbreaking is when he did go down injured, he knew immediately that his season was over. Yeah, it seems like there have been a lot of changes, but there's also been a lot of new guys coming in that we've reported on like all through last year, as well as
I was gonna say, I feel like we got like Corey Thomas signing here is a much bigger deal than you seem to make it make. You kind of jumped over it like really quickly, but
that's because we've got so much to talk about. I have to get through it at a certain pace. But no, but yeah, absolutely. Having a head coach who's lifted the shield and having a player in the squad who's also lifted a admittedly lighter version of the shield is definitely worthwhile having for the Arrows going forward. So I think that's a fantastic acquisition, and
it's honestly it might be one of the best signings of the offseason. I'm sure we'll get into a full list later, but or later on in as we build up to the start of the season. But as you said, Thomas comes in, he played with the Guiltinis, so he's obviously has that championship experience. After playing for the Guiltinis that first year, kind of burst onto the scene with the Canadian national team. So you got a little bit of a built-in chemistry and stuff already with a lot of the other Arrows players that are on the Canadian national team. He seems to fit in very nicely, kind of looking at the roster, with as the locks right now. Lock and back row kind of looks very strong for the Toronto Arrows, I think. And I mean, it'll be interesting and kind of see how things shake out at training camp, which has begun this week, right? But you know what I mean. It's like Mike Shepard's the captain, or was the captain last year, so that is also kind of an interesting twist to it. But it'll be interesting to see like how Micah Torrance Reed kind of performs during camp too. And kind of see who starts coming away with earning that 4 and 5 jersey at for the home or the season opener. But I mean, Thomas obviously really fits in at lock. We've talked about how there's a bit of depth in the back row for the Arrows with like Rumble, O'Neill, Rutten, Edie, Larson. Although Edie and Larson probably a little bit more of eights. So it is interesting because Rumble, O'Neill, Flesh obviously all have MLR, plenty of MLR experience. O'Neill, I kind of feel is really starting to come into his own in the second half of the season last year. Rumball is obviously proven time and time again to be, I don't know, for my money, the best flanker in MLR. His breakdown steal numbers is really, it's the only argument you really need in that conversation. Rutten obviously as a draft pick, that'll be interesting to see how he goes. But either way, Thomas having that flexibility to go between the second row and the back row is a massive pickup for the Arrows to have a player of that caliber that you can kind of shift a little bit throughout the lineup if needed. So I'm really kind of excited to see that. He's racked up plenty of tries for the Canadian national team in his 11 caps too. And LA again last year, he was part of one of the better teams in the league last year, and obviously that ended in the most bizarre fashion imaginable. But he's got that MLR championship experience, right? As you said, he's he's the only player on the Arrows to have won the Shield, right? So that's obviously, that is also a good thing to kind of have come into the room. So like as you kind of mentioned with Ramon Ayarza, you know, obviously there was clearly numerically a need for a hooker by the time we last recorded a podcast. So it's nice to see that they added one. It's really nice too, because it seems like the Arrows front row seems a little bit bigger than last year. Ayarza is a bit of a taller hooker, 6'1". So that's nice. Picking up Hildebrand too. It's a good, obviously he's played for the Pacific Pride and Houston, so that's another solid Canadian player that can come in. With Keith and Quatrin heading out the door, right? It's the front row is obviously an area that needed to be addressed, and I think they did a pretty good job. And also there's obviously Denver Fat too, who was a draft pick, so that's always curious to see how those guys go in their first year, because I kind of feel like I think the draft in MLR is really a lot of fun, but it's it still seems like a lot of the guys can kind of still be a little bit of, I think there's still some question marks around how well the guys actually or end up performing like in the season, or how much they even play. Obviously there's certain guys that stand out a lot more than others from the previous draft classes, but I think that'll be fun. I mean, ultimately I feel like the pack looks really good. The back line also looking solid, and I mean we're going to talk to one of those players that's on the back line this later on, but it's it's a solid looking team. So I'm happy with the way that it's shaped out. They added a couple big names over the break, which are guys to get excited about. Tim Matthews coming in, new VP, new GM. Excited to see what he does with the squad too. Obviously, Mark Winokur has a lot to do with bringing professional rugby to Toronto and to Canada as a whole.
Yeah.
He was massive part of that. So he should be obviously immensely thanked for his efforts in the creation of the Toronto Arrows, and even going back to the Ontario Arrows days, and the Ontario Blues and all the work that he's done for that. It looks like, based on the press release, he's still sticking around the team. So hopefully, it'd be nice to see him on like match days and stuff.
Yeah, and he retains his position as co-founder, and he now just becomes a senior advisor, reporting to Bill Webb.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of fascinating the how people seem to be I think the Arrows seem to be kind of like shit, like as as we like move in the years on and stuff. It's like they kind of seem to be shifting a little bit in their organization. Is obviously like Silverthorne went from like the head coach, and then he's then when Pete Smith became the head coach, Silverthorne took another position within the club. So it seems like Winokur's sticking around too. It's obviously the Arrows always talk about their culture, and it seems like a lot of guys, everybody's, even if changes need to be made, they're finding a way to make it work, like with everybody still there. So it'd be interesting. So Matthews, obviously, I'm super excited to see what he does, see if there's any moves that he's been made. Obviously it's it is maybe tough to be said how much of this roster is obviously Mark Winokur versus what players might be Tim Matthews going into this year. But I mean, going forward, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of moves he makes. Because that's obviously anytime you change your GM, it's a very, very noteworthy event. So I'm excited to see what he has. And it's obviously the first week of camp, so we got plenty of other news just from yesterday, basically, to go through.
Yes. So 3 teams have announced their starting 2023 squads. I say starting because, of course, injuries happen and new guys need to come in to fill that gap.
Yep.
But for now, we have the full teams for Houston, NOLA, and Old Glory DC. So starting off with Houston, look, we're just going to focus on the Canadians. You know what this podcast is about. We have Rob Povey, who will be playing for the Sabercats once more. And interesting enough, former Arrow Morgan Mitchell has also signed for Houston this season. So it'll be good to see him when he's not playing against Toronto.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite players for the Arrows in the 2019, man. He was a ton of fun to watch. So
absolutely,
it's nice to see him back in the league, even if it's not with the Arrows.
Sadly. Yeah, swings and roundabouts. We'll take what we get. And we're great to see Morgan back, even if it is. Well, the good thing is he's playing in the other conference, so there's only going to be one opportunity for him to play against the Arrows. So it's all right. All right, we'll move on to NOLA, and Eric Howard has been announced for NOLA for another season.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough when you're the only Canadian on your team, and you've got to be like, guys, I'm the reason why we're winning, but you can't tell them that. You have to just, we'll see. Anyway, and for DC, we have the announcement at draft pick Cali Martinez is with the team. Graydon Bowd, which may have been spoiled by Rugby Canada, and Old Glory stalwart Doug Fraser is back for DC. And unfortunately, while Luke Campbell did previously announce that he was going to spend another year with DC, he has decided to announce his retirement on injury grounds. Now, Campbell has, not only played for DC, he also played for the Arrows in their inaugural season. And as a Canadian international and a friend of the podcast, we're really sad to see him go, but we wish him all the best in the next steps of his career, whatever that may be. So to Luke, thank you so much. All the best.
Yeah, man. Luke Campbell, he was a fun interview. It was a good time when we had him on, and obviously he has the fun distinction of being the first former Arrow to play against the Toronto Arrows. So that's that'll be your fun piece of MLR trivia that you can take with you for the evening. Yeah, Martinez draft pick. That's obviously exciting. Great and Bowd. Great to have another Canadian fly half in the league. That's obviously something that's very needed. Eric Howard's just NOLA legend.
Yeah.
Right. Rugby can't retire numbers, but I feel like if you could, he would probably have his name. I guess you could probably do like a Ring of Honor or something. It'll be interesting to see what MLR teams do with how to honor players post career. But I feel like Howard's going to be one of those guys. Povey and Povey again, same kind of thing for Great and Bow. Great to have more Canadian fly halves in the league. And Morgan Mitchell, welcome back. It's cool. Morgan Mitchell technically not Canadian, but we're just acknowledging that for former Arrowness. By technically not Canadian, I mean he's not Canadian, but.
Well, that's the thing. If you play for the Arrows, you're an honorary Canadian.
Honorary Canadian, right.
I went over this at the start. So.
Yeah, right. Nope, you're right. You're right.
All right. So now we're going to take an artistic twist because we've had 2 more kits been released since we last saw you guys. We have had San Diego Legion have announced their home, away, and their camo kit. Mm-hmm. And the Chicago Hounds have announced their home and away jerseys. So I'll start off with San Diego. The home kit is a mixture of black to red with black shorts, black socks. The away kit is white mixed into black with white shorts and white socks. And the camo kit is, it's camo. It's camo. It's kind of hard.
Yeah. It's in the name, yeah.
Yeah, with black shorts and black socks. And it seems that their sponsor for the jersey this year is Kings and Convicts, which I'm not entirely sure.
It's a brewery.
It's a brewery.
It's a brewery.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Kings and Convicts Brewery.
I Googled it as soon as I saw it. I'm like, that's a very interesting thing to have written on your jersey. It's a brewery, which in all honesty, that's a really, really good brewery name.
Yeah. And on these, so on the home and away kit, they have the logo of a Roman centurion. So a legionnaire, I should say, on the kit. And I got to say, this is a return to form of kits for San Diego. I think like last year's weren't that great.
No.
This is definitely the San Diego from like 2018. yeah, the return of black and red just works so well, and it's great
Yeah.
to see them.
Yeah, it does. Honestly, I think San Diego last year had my least favorite kit in the league. Um, didn't didn't like it at all.
Mhm.
Especially that one weird gold one. Like I don't know where the gold in the color scheme came from.
Yeah, that was a choice,
Yeah,
to say the
didn't
least.
like it at all. Nice to see them kind of a little bit of like going back to basics here with the color scheme. I like the big Legionnaire helmet on the waist. That looks cool. Um, in all honesty, Kings and Convicts thing too. It's a good logo for the front of a jersey. It's a nicely done sponsor integration. It looks like it blends in with the kit nicely. I like the white, I like the red and black. Um Camo, unless it's like military appreciation night, um camo doesn't do much for me. Um but I know
Yeah.
obviously military appreciation night has been a big thing in the MLR, and all the teams have been rocking camo kits. I think that's cool. Support, like I think that stuff is cool. Um, but just I don't know, aesthetically, camo doesn't really do much for me. Um, uh, if it's for if supporting the military and stuff, that's fine. But just aesthetically, it doesn't do much for me. But that's just like kind of, I guess, a personal taste thing.
Yeah, I get it. I think,
But
well, looking
I
back
love
on
the
San Diego in previous seasons, they've
yeah,
worn camo or like the Army Appreciation Kit for like a number of games, not
multiple
just
games, yeah,
specifically
which I
one.
think this
Yeah,
is what that is, and it's like I said, it's like for like the military appreciation stuff. I mean, go for it, all for that. But I never think they look that great, though. I'm just like, oh yeah, cool, support the military. But
yeah,
um, I don't know. I guess that's my design point on the camel jersey.
yeah. All right, let's move
The
on
new
to
kids to the new kids.
yeah, new kids, Chicago. It's yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the pattern that the Chicago has, but it does seem to be from what was like the tackle height line. So the area on a torso where anything above that line would be considered a high tackle. And that pattern goes, all around the jersey as well. So the home jersey is predominantly white. The Hounds logo, Paladin, I believe, will be in a matching green as well. You have the blues on the back and on the arms and the sleeves. And subtly, there are the stars
Yeah,
that are from the Chicago flag on the shoulders. So I think that's a really nice touch. And then the away jersey is basically the same, but in black.
yeah.
So I and matching shorts, matching socks. Again, these are all computer generated images, so can't really give a complete verdict. I'd say these are inoffensive jerseys. There's nothing
Inoffensive.
about them that would. There's nothing about them that really like stands out at the moment,
Hmm.
but it's also not the
Yeah,
worst jersey
you're,
I've ever seen.
yeah. No,
So
they're solid. They're solid in a nice way. I mean, the one thing that's like I think I've heard that like kind of I guess criticism of some rugby jerseys, and it's always because maybe they're like straightforward or whatever, but it's like we're the sport where the most iconic team just rocks out in a solid black jersey, right? Like
yeah, I suppose that's fair.
that's the baseline. That's a rugby iconic jersey right there. It's
Yeah,
literally the team name is the All Blacks. They wear all black. That's there's not much to the kit design. But I think for Chicago here though, I really like the white one. I like that they went with like a unique pattern. I love the star, like the Chicago flag stars and like the little hound imagery that's sublimated around the shoulders. I really like the shield that's on the back at the collar. I think that's
yeah,
cool. I like the number font. I think it looks really good. I mean, the black jersey is much the same. Like, I think design wise, I think it looks nice. I guess my only gripe with it is like, I, I wish they used green or that they have a cool shade of blue in that color scheme too. I think I would have liked to see like a green and blue jersey, as opposed to a black, because I mean, man, like every team in this league is black at this point. Like if you look at the so Chicago's going to play in the Western Conference, right, Stu?
Yeah.
Right. So the Western Conference, we just did San Diego, black jersey. I mean, not every team has announced kits, but let's go through it. Seattle has a black jersey. Utah, black. Dallas, black.
Houston, black.
Right? That's literally the whole conference is black, has a black jersey.
Yeah.
Right.
But then again, you can argue that if the Western Conference are using black as their like away colors or their alternate colors, in the same way that a lot of teams will have like a white jersey as their alternate color.
But they're not doing that because teams have black and white jerseys.
That is true.
San Diego has a white jersey. Utah has a white jersey. Chicago's got a white jersey. Seattle's got a white jersey. All the teams are black, and then the other kit is still white, with the exception like Houston. At least last year went with bright yellow, which is nice. But everybody,
Houston's always gone with
which is great though, because it's a nice which is great. It's a unique color, and honestly, is one of my favorite kits in the league normally.
Well, but this is kind of what I mean by saying that the Hounds 23 jerseys are inoffensive. There's I wouldn't put it in like the Hall of Fame of MLR jerseys, but you know, if you're getting new fans in and you've got like used to the North American standard of teams having like a white jersey, and black is always slimming as well.
Still have, but that's why I'm saying though, it's like the teams that have the black jerseys still have white jerseys, right? It's not like they're black and then a different color. And the league is using black as the white default, right? Because even you go to the Eastern Conference too, right? Yeah. So that's the entire Western Conference. Atlanta's got a black jersey. New Orleans last year had a black jersey. Last year, New York had a black jersey. There's 3 teams in the league that have yet to wear a black jersey. It's Toronto, New England, and Old Glory. 2 of those teams are the same colors themselves. And then you have Toronto that hasn't worn a black jersey or whatever, and isn't the same colors. But it's like there's I don't know. I wish that's the one thing that makes me sad about Austin not being in this league, is that it's like, I like the bright orange, the color trouble that no one wears.
Yeah. I think what I'd like to see in 2024, or even as like a third jersey, is a solid green. Or green is like the primary color. Yeah.
Like I would like, that's that's exactly like even like Dallas and stuff. Like I would like if Dallas, I mean, I know obviously Dallas is also green now, but if they went like green and white or something, or like like I don't know what their kits are looking like either. I think that's another thing that's like, it's like, I don't know. I feel like the kits should kind of, we're at training camp. I feel like they should be out by now.
I think all kits should have been released at this point.
Yeah, I feel like ideally, and I know this is a weird off season, so maybe there's the league kind of had bigger fish to fry for most of the off season, I think. So like maybe I'm willing to give a pass on it for this year, but I think like I feel like the ideal time, if the league is going to start in February, like I feel like the ideal time to release the kits is like around American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then people can do like it as part of like their Christmas shopping and stuff.
Yeah, that is what they did for like 2019 into 2020. And I still don't understand why the league hasn't tried to replicate that.
Interesting because like in previous years, it's been all 12 or all however many teams were in the league at the time.
Yeah.
It's at once. And then this is the first year where it seems like teams are doing it on a team by team basis. And it just feels really slow and like drawn out and stuff. Like
I'll be honest, in my opinion, it feels unprofessional.
I don't know if I would say it feels unprofessional, but it's just like I feel like it feels like it's taken very long to release.
Yeah, that's the point. Is that with previous years, you've said you could add like a team. Like even when LA back in 2021 didn't have an away kit to show
Yeah,
to
everybody ripped on
people.
that.
I thought that was
Yeah.
unprofessional
Which
as
is
well.
also interesting because Chicago's released their kit before half the league.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that I think that if the league is going to be releasing kits, and yes, you can say, teams can release their kits whenever they want to, but I think there
Yeah.
should be a hard date set. Again, before American Thanksgiving, saying that
Yeah,
if
I
you
would.
have not released your kit by this date, we are going to do the like the league wide all kits reveal on this date. So you can either do it the same date, or we're going to do it, and
I mean,
you can pick before. But that's just my opinion.
I don't know if that's necessarily the solution. Like, I don't think I like the kit drop of it all at once a
Yeah,
lot better than the way it's happened this year and the way
yeah,
it's been staggered out. That being said, it's like some of the teams, especially New England and Utah, absolutely killed it with the way they dropped their kits.
yeah,
Like the videos and the media that they put out associated with their kit release was incredible. And I think they did, both those teams did a really good job of that. I just think yeah, I mean, as a fan and stuff, there's the curiosity of I want to see what my favorite team's kit's gonna look like. Especially when
yeah,
they take when's the season starts, what, February 17th? That's in what, 5 weeks?
yeah. 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
5 weeks. There's preseason games that are gonna be happening in 4 weeks, give or take. Right. So there's preseason games that are gonna be happening in 4 weeks, give or take, right? So it's it would be cool to kind of see, even a team say Old Glory kind of did a little merch drop earlier today, and they got a little, I don't want to say it's a new logo, but they kind of got a new word mark and things that they've been using. I'd be curious to see if that's going to be incorporated in some way on their kit for this year, or what teams are going to do. That being said, to be honest, I don't necessarily think that the MLR teams need to change the kit every year. I think you can do a lot for building your brand by wearing the same or similar things, similar kits year after year. I think it helps with a little bit of brand recognition, but it seems like the way that we've been going is that there's always new ones each year. So now it leaves you curious to see what they look like. I mean, for example, I love the Arrows kit. If the Arrows came out in the same kit they wore last year, I'm stoked because I think it's
yeah,
great. Right. But based on the idea that every year there's new kits, I kind of want to see what the new kit looks like.
yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's very close to the seasons, but it's very close to the season, and it's been a very long time since I believe Utah was first with theirs. Right. It's been a very long time, and we still
Yeah,
haven't seen half the league.
yeah, yeah. I think that's the main gripe for me, is that if these had all been released in the space of a couple of weeks, I'd be fine with it. But we're now spanning
Yeah,
months, and
it's been
it's a drag at this
yeah.
point. Anyway, it's out of our hands. Hopefully, it can be resolved for next year.
Yeah.
Well, it's a new year, and that means new rugby happening, because Superliga America de Rugby has expanded into the Northern Hemisphere and has officially rebranded as Super Rugby Americas. We did talk about this previously last year, but we now have much more details that have come out. So the big news is that the 2021 champions, Jaguares 15, have been removed from Super Rugby Americas, but they will be replaced by two Argentine teams, Los Dogos 15, and they'll be basically called Doba, and Pampas will be based in Buenos Aires. Los Cafeteros Pro, the Colombian team, have been replaced by the new expansion team, which are the American Raptors based in Colorado. Olympia Lions with Paraguay have rebranded to Yacare 15, and Selknam, who are the Chilean team, Penarol, the Uruguayan team, and Cobras 15, the Brazilian team, remain completing the 7 teams for the 2023 season. This will be a 12 rounds home and away fixtures over 14 weeks. So the American Raptors will be spending the start of their season in South America before coming back and doing their home games and then finishing off their season in South America. And it's been announced that the semi-finals and finals, which will consist of the top 4 teams of the league, no matter who wins those, including the American Raptors, all of those games will be held in South America. So is it a new competition that's coming forward? And I believe at the time of recording, we do have fixture date announced. The first round of fixtures will be on the weekend of February 18th, with the final round taking place on the 26th of May, and the semi-finals and finals taking place within the first 2 weekends of June. So, a shorter calendar than MLR, but obviously there's fewer teams, and it works like 3 games each round, with the team getting a bye. And then, so total of 14 rounds. It's going to be interesting to keep in touch. Unfortunately, there is no Canadian team, despite that rumor existing when we previously reported it. It was considered that the Pacific Pride were the team that was going to be taking part. However, it has been reported that they will not be joining, and it is believed that costs involved the primary reason why the Pride will not compete, despite being initially being offered considerable financial backing by World Rugby. I think we also mentioned that the Pride have a season of rugby already lined up, and basically it would be a case of, as soon as that finished, Super Rugby Americas would begin. So basically no rest time for any of the players. And and as we mentioned, costs, just keep adding, and it's just I don't think it would have worked out. I hope maybe there'll be an option for 2024. We will see. But
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not too disappointed that the Pacific Pride aren't in this. Even the Raptors, it seems weird that they're in this too.
I think it's one of these.
They went really quickly from, we're gonna build a team of athletes from other sports and try to convert them to rugby players, to kind of reverting back to what the Glendale Raptors were.
So as we mentioned, that Siaki Vikilani has been selected for the American Raptors training squad. At
Handful
the moment.
of other MLR players too, and a lot of, funny and nutly enough too, like based on what the Raptors camp was saying when they left MLR, there's a handful of foreign players on the team too.
Yeah, it's very.
I mean, to each their own, I guess.
People, things that happen in 2020
right?
don't necessarily reciprocate in 2023. The mayor of Glendale, who has no input in the team whatsoever, yet is involved at every single level. He may have an input and of his opinion, rather, because he's not with the team. He's just there in every single sentence and every syllable that comes out. But as we'd say,
curious to see how they do in this.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. So we do have some names from LMR, like Christian Osberg is in the squad. Yeah. Ryan James as well.
Yeah, your favorite player. You have to watch.
Favorite American player. Get it right. Come on, man. We do this every time. And also, as we mentioned, Siaki Vikilani as well. So there is a fair number of MLR talent in this preseason roster, at least. And it'll be interesting to see how things unfold with the season itself. Obviously, only 3 of the teams officially continue from SLAR. So, it's going to be definitely interesting to see how this all unfolds. But, may have it on the back burner, obviously, because MLR will be running at the same time. Now, before we carry on, World Rugby have announced some law changes. for the game that have now since come into effect from when this announcement first came out. So we'll just blast through these in the bullet point form. Conversions are to be taken within 90 seconds, penalty kicks within 60 seconds. The referees will crack down on time wasting.
Mm-hmm.
Teams must be ready to form the scrum within 30 seconds of the call. Referees are asked for less reliance on TMOs. There'll be fewer water carrier interventions. The crackdown of players off their feet at the ruck, and a clarification on deliberate knock-ons. Now, some of those things, if you're a fan of MLR, may seem pretty familiar, especially the penalty kicks within 60 seconds. Well, it seems as though World Rugby have been doing these trials across the world in different competitions, and it seems that they want to get the flow of rugby moving much faster than it currently is. So obviously having the conversions to be taken within 90 seconds and penalties in 60 seconds. I think this is a great continuation from what we've seen in MLR. I think the big one is teams must be ready to form the scrum within 30 seconds of the call. Now, Derek, you know that I'm not a fan of what MLR currently has in place of only allowing one scrum reset, but I definitely think having a scrum ready to go within 30 seconds, I think that is going to help speed up the game much faster as well.
Stop the clock. Just stop the clock.
Well, it's not so much the clock; it's the actual action that's going on.
You still get all the time of the actual action. Just stop the clock. They're saying that you want to crack down on time wasting. It's like just you want to crack down on time wasting. You want scrums to be so. Just stop the clock. There's no there's no advantage of taking your time.
I think this is more from a spectator perspective rather than on-field perspective.
That's fine, but it's like it's the same thing. It's like, how come that rule only applies to a scrum? How come it doesn't apply to a lineout? How come it doesn't apply to any other scenario? Why is it only the scrum? It feels
I think it's been done because World Rugby have seen which of the set pieces take the longest to form. So when it's talking about crackdown on time wasting, that is a case of like telling players to hurry up and form the line out.
You know what fixes that though is you stop the clock, and then you still like take for like I mean for example you can compare two sports that uses like American football, American Canadian football. You have certain situations where the clock keeps running and you stop. Right, the ball is probably in play for like 12 minutes of the 60 minutes that it takes a game.
Yeah,
right. Versus say hockey, where you stop the clock every single time. The puck is in play for 60 out of the 60 minutes. Like you can stop the clock and you get more rugby if you stop the clock. That's all I'm saying. It's like if you don't want teams to waste time, like teams will probably set up the scrum faster if there's no advantage to like why do scrums take so long to set up? Why do scrums later in the game take a long time to set up? Because one team's like, we can milk the clock. Every single team in the world does it, right? That's why I
can see where you're coming from, but I think I think the idea of like stopping the clock doesn't, or what they found hasn't addressed the issue of
that's fine.
Plays taking longer and fans being
fine. As I just said, American football, the most popular sport on our continent, stops the clock every 2 seconds. For some reason, people love it. I don't personally get it.
But maybe as well as that American football also has more of a following, and there's the idea of which is basically what rugby's doing now, is that if you were to do American football now, it would probably have the same issues as well.
The thing is it's like I think part of it is it's like we have a version of rugby that does this. Right, where the scrums are really quick. They're also uncontested and kind of feel pointless and boring. There is a version of rugby where that kind of exists, which is obviously rugby league. But I think the scrum, having to set up the scrum within like 30 seconds and stuff as like a little arbitrary time limit, just kind of feels like one of those things that's probably fixing a problem that the game doesn't have, or that the people that enjoy it, like, when was the last time you were like literally like, oh, I wish the scrum was like being set up faster? Like, do you think that during a game?
No, but I think
Yeah.
that's the point that's being made, is that they're wanting to get new fans in to the sport,
Like,
and they want to grow. If they want to actually grow the game, that means they have to spread out
but
to
is a
people
new
who
fan more likely to watch rugby because a scrum got set up in 25 seconds as opposed to 35?
probably.
That whole 10 the whole extra 10 seconds is.
Yeah, because from their perspective, if things continually stop and start, and unlike American football, if one team's going off or coming back on, or
Yeah.
there's constant movement on the pitch, that's what's going to keep like new fans engaged. I think that's the conclusion that they've drawn. So
Is
I'm
that
willing
is
to
that
let
the
this
right
play out and
yeah.
see how it goes.
I guess my whole thing is, I hope, like, the sport and stuff, like, I understand there obviously needs to be like a reach for like new fans and stuff. And things should be done that help, create new fans, and I'm all for that. I just think some of these just kind of like, especially like, yeah, fewer water carrier interventions, obviously the crackdown on time wasting. There's very much like, seems to be a thing of like, maybe like, do they feel like these games are too long, or is there too much period of inactivity or something? But my concern is it's like, is that targeting something that's not really a problem with attracting new fans? Because new fans also come from other games and stuff. Like, say if you're looking to attract like a North American fan, it's like, in all honesty, that's something that you're used to, right? As you said, football, hockey, as I mentioned, even though the puck's in play for the full 60 minutes, lots of periods of stopping. Right. If you go to a hockey game live, you have to sit and watch people shovel snow off the ice for 45 seconds every like 8 minutes. Right. So it's like, people are like, is that, that's all. I'm just like, I guess my whole thing is, I hope it's like, I'm down to see how it works, and maybe I'll watch it and I'll like it. I just hope it's not something that's just like, we got to change this we have to change this thing that nobody's necessarily really complaining about. Because even like MLR fans, you do the 2 scrum reset because that's supposed to make the game faster, and everyone hates it. Right. So I'm just like, I just hope we're not just changing things to be like, let's just kind of make it fast for the sake of changing things, but not actually identifying the problems or parts of the game that people don't want to see. That's the
Well,
only thing I'm
to be
worried
honest,
about.
I'd be interested to see that if having this 30-second
Yeah.
call time actually makes scrums happen faster. And
You know
then,
what's
if
funny?
that's the case, then you can have three. I'd
How
say then move it to 3 scrums, and then you have
Yeah,
the case of,
maybe.
oh, well, if you're in the
How
opposition
how
5,
long does the average scrum take to set up? Like, honestly, it's something I've never even thought
clearly
of.
longer than 30 seconds.
That's
So
what I'm
that's
saying.
what
Like,
they're.
I've honestly never thought of it before. And even like the kick time and stuff, like even like watching MLR, it's like, there's very like, out of the entire season, there's very few instances where it feels like the guy's actually getting close to the time limit. Like, there's a couple that are there. Obviously, there's some moments where the wind blows the ball off the tee and the guy's got to like reset it, and then they got to rush that. But
Yeah.
like, I feel like most guys are getting it off, like getting their kickoff like well within the time still. Or, you know what I mean? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
like, that's my curiosity, is like, are we trying to fix problems that don't exist? And is that going to not really? Because I think the scrum reset rule is trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist and it stinks. And I just don't want the same. I just don't want the same things to be constantly happening, or whatever. Maybe I'm
Mm.
wrong though.
Well,
Maybe I'll
yeah,
actually really enjoy these rules.
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I'm
Yeah,
not
that
going to.
I'd say that I'll give them a try, and
Yeah,
if they're great, great, and if they're not, then that
yeah,
can be a
exactly.
discussion for
And
another time.
yeah, exactly. That's fair.
Right.
I've just never thought of how long it takes a scrum to set up before.
All
But
right.
now I am.
So yeah. So as I say, it's the start of a new year. That means we've got an entire year of rugby seasons and competitions to take part in. So if there's going to be a lot of rugby happening this year and you want to know where to find it, so the World 7 Series, that will be continuing on CBC. If you're looking for the Premiership or URC, that will be on Sportsnet. The Champions and Challenge Cup will be on epcrugby.tv. And if there are any Canadian national games, none have been announced at the time of recording. We're hoping they'll be on TSN. What we can definitely know for sure is that the 2023 Rugby World Cup in France, those games will be shown on TSN. The Arrows haven't, or the Arrows have yet to announce their broadcasting partner. It has been TSN in the past. Maybe it's a continuation this year. When that comes through, we'll let you know. And all other MLR games can be found on the Rugby Network. Now, as we said, we've got a player, the first interview of 2023 coming up, and it's also the first new signing for the Toronto Arrows for 2023. And just like that, we are back. And we are not only just back, we are back with our very first guest of 2023, the first new signing announced for the Toronto Arrows for their MLR 2023 season, all the way from Australia, Nic Benn. Nic, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Likewise. So we ask the same questions as we do for anyone when they're on the podcast. So we want to know, what got you started in rugby to begin with?
So I first probably started when I moved back to Australia. I was pretty keen on playing rugby again. Most of my mates all talked about rugby at school and stuff. So I did actually start off with league. I started playing league when I was younger in Newcastle. It's a big rugby league city, and it's where all young kids play. And then there wasn't a union team nearby that had a team in my age group. So I pretty much just waited my time until there was. And then as soon as there was, I jumped straight into it and, made the move from league to union.
I guess what is there anything specific that influenced that decision to go from league to union? So obviously, like, league's pretty big in Australia still, right?
Yeah, it is massive. I think my old man, he always, just in a joking way, said, "Oh, don't play league, play union. It's the better game." So I probably listened to him a bit in that. And also I just enjoyed it a bit more. As soon as I played it, I picked it up a bit easier, and I just enjoyed it. Flowed a bit more. I found that league sometimes a bit so repetitive. So as soon as I made the move to union, I enjoyed it so much more, and just I felt like I was at home more than playing league.
Obviously, your dad had a pretty big influence on you choosing union over league. Were there any other figures that helped you once you made that transition over to the 15s game?
Yeah, I think my coach, I had the same coach actually all throughout juniors, from under 12s all the way through to like under 18s. We had the same coach. He was awesome. He didn't have a kid in the team or anything. He just loved rugby, and he just wanted to stick around with our team, and he followed us all the way through our juniors. So it was pretty special. So it almost you want to just play well every game for him almost. He was a good figure for all of us to look up to. He's still involved with Lake Macquarie Roos now. Yeah, he's a pretty special guy.
And so if you kind of had that influence, obviously, playing rugby from a young age. So as you said, your dad had a big impact. Some coaches from the moment you were a kid. Is there anybody that you kind of, as a fan growing up in Australia too, like that kind of you really looked up to? Any players, or anybody that you just really enjoyed watching play, and maybe tried to inject a little bit of their game into yours?
Yeah, so obviously when growing up, Israel Folau was always the biggest name in Australia rugby. He was massive. Just the things he did was so awesome. And I think as a fan, he was a big draw when he moved to union. He just lit up the Super Rugby, and he was pretty special to watch. But someone I've probably always looked up to the most and tried to emulate in playing is probably Conrad Smith from New Zealand. I've just always loved the way he played. He same position, so I've always sort of looked up to him. He's pretty smart. He's a very smart rugby player, and he's always just at the right place at the right time, and just always did his role. And he's a pretty special player, and I always loved, and I still love watching his highlights, even though he doesn't play anymore.
Are Aussies allowed to say they looked up to All Blacks?
I mean, they're the best to ever do it, so I think so.
Oh, see, I think we're learning why you have moved to Canada now. You might have. Yeah. Is it because? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, they found out. And,
yeah, exactly. They got. He's
has to leave.
There's some legal reasons he's here as well.
Sporting amnesty, I believe. So speaking of coming to Canada, now you were born in Australia, but moved over for a few years for your childhood to Smithers in British Columbia. And you mentioned you grew up playing hockey, and then a bit of an issue with finding ice in Australia to play on, and that helped make the change to rugby. So just of interest of like, have you remained a fan of hockey whilst being in Australia? And I actually did a bit of research that the Sydney Bears and the Ice Dogs that play at the same arena. Have you managed to catch a Sydney ice hockey game?
Yeah, so I actually, when I moved back to Australia, I played for a year.
Okay,
nice.
I loved it. When I lived in Smithers, I loved playing hockey. I enjoyed it so much. It's a pretty awesome sport to be a part of. And yeah, when I moved back, I played for a team called the Newcastle North Stars. And yeah, I played 1 year, but yeah, as you said, it's pretty hard to come by. And traveling into Sydney every weekend to play because there's no other local teams nearby was pretty tough on my parents as well because I was only young at the time. But yeah, I still really enjoyed watching it. My dad loves it. He watches every Oilers game. He's a diehard Oilers fan. So
nice.
So it's finally nice to see them sort of putting a few wins together. I think he had to follow them through a bit of heartbreak for a few years.
Well, I mean, like we're from Toronto, so I mean, if you want to have a heartbreaking hockey fan base, heart to heart, here, like we're in the right place. But I mean, at least you guys get to watch McDavid and Draisaitl. But I don't know if that makes you. I don't know if that makes you feel worse when the Oilers inevitably get bounced in the second round too.
Oh yeah, it's pretty devastating. But they're pretty special players. They're crazy.
Advice you might want, if you're an Oilers fan, you might want to avoid James O'Neill in any hockey related conversations. No,
I see him at training walking around his Calgary Flames hat. I've seen him. We've been chirping to each other a little bit already.
Yeah, okay. Well, or maybe just go directly talk right to him anyway. So I mean, it's team bonding, right? That's really
it is. It's always nice to have a bit of banter and stuff like that around the lads.
Yeah. My one random Australian hockey fact that I picked up while at my previous job was that Australia has the second oldest hockey trophy behind the Stanley Cup. It's called the Goodall Cup. It's the AIHL Championship trophies, the Goodall Cup. It's been around since 1911. That was my one piece of random hockey knowledge. Plenty of random hockey knowledge questions to kind of toss out there. That was my one Australian specific one.
I would not have picked that at all.
No, we didn't think of it either until the trophy was like in front of us, and we're like, "Oh, this is really old." And then
that's crazy.
Going from hockey back into rugby. After all, this is a rugby podcast. I know we have a tradition of talking about another sport when we do any of these episodes. So, keeping the tradition going, it's all fine. So during high school, you played for Lake Macquarie Rugby Club, a club that's now nearly 100 years old. What does it mean to be part of a club with such a rich history?
Yeah, it was really special. It's a great club, and it's plays a pretty important role in that community as well. So I was pretty honoured to play for them, and it's where I originally fell in love with the game. So it's super special to me to be a part of that club. And I try to get back and see everyone there as much as I can whenever I'm back in Newcastle visiting my parents. But it's such a special club, and it's just, you see the same faces every time you go back, and some of the guys are still playing even though they've got their kids of their own. They're playing, which is pretty special to see. But they love rugby at Lake Macquarie, and it's really special to be part of that club.
Yeah, and you've also played you got some Australia under-18s experience as well as the World School Sevens. What were those experiences like, being able to represent Australia on an international level?
it was super special to get to represent Australia in the under 18 sevens. I was pretty honoured. It sort of came out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting it, and I got selected in the team, and I sort of just put my head down and trained pretty hard, and it was awesome experience, and get to meet a lot of other players from other teams as well. We boarded with the American guys, and they were awesome as well. And it's a super good tournament. I'd highly recommend it to anyone that's going to play. You'll have a really good time and play some really good footy as well.
Do you prefer sevens or 15s?
Oh, I prefer 15s for sure. I'm probably built more for sevens, but I definitely like 15s more. I like the contact and the physicality of it, and more of the just tactical as well. It's a bit longer as well. Sevens is over pretty quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you signed, America's Rugby News had a little highlight reel of yourself posted, and the first 3 minutes of it is just tackles. And I was I feel like this guy enjoys a certain side of the ball, perhaps.
Yeah, I do. I like defending. Yeah, I do enjoy it.
All good. So about that the school's sevens competition that took place in New Zealand, is that correct?
Yeah, it was in Auckland. Yeah, just outside of Auckland. It was pretty cool. Yeah, a lot
Did
of
you
teams
get
come
because obviously, obviously you say like league and obviously Aussie rules football, some of like the biggest sports in Australia, but in New Zealand, of course, like union is like leagues above
it's like
any other.
It's a religion, yeah.
Exactly. So was there like a bit of a culture shock with seeing like you thinking like, oh yeah, I'm a rugby union player, and then seeing what it means to people in New Zealand?
Yeah, it is crazy. The amount of people that just showed up to watch the games was ridiculous, and the New Zealand boys were really good. They had a few teams actually, but their main squad was they were amazing, and I'm pretty sure their team had been put together for almost a year just training for that tournament.
Oh,
wow. They were. I think they ended up winning it in the end, and they were pretty special. And just to see, when they won, the way they celebrated and stuff like that was pretty cool as well.
Obviously, prior to joining the Toronto Arrows, you've been playing for the Manly Marlins, the Shoot Shield, and you also kind of you were part of their under 20s program and worked your way up to the top squad. And so what was kind of your motivating factor to initially link up with the Manly Marlins, and how'd you kind of get started with that program?
Yeah, so I always grew up watching the Shoot Shield, and I'd always watch it on TV with my dad, and just watching it was so fast and physical. I always wanted to play, and I always knew that to excel and go further in rugby, I suppose I had to be in Sydney. That's where the rugby is the most popular, and that's where the game's growing so much. So I knew that when I finished up school in Newcastle, I played a few sevens tournaments down in Sydney, and I sort of got, you could say, a bit of exposure sort of. And then I got talking with the Manly coach, and I had a few friends going down there as well. That sort of helped. So I had a few familiar faces before joining them. And so we all moved in together and got a shared house, and started playing under 20s for them, and I loved it. And I've been there ever since, up until now.
So you started with the Manly under 20s program. Can you describe how it felt to be called up to like the first 15 for Manly and playing in the Shoot Shield? Because obviously, Shoot Shield's changed over the years, and has very storied history. But as someone who competes in that, talking to two guys from a country where it's very difficult to follow the Shoot Shield along. Can you just describe how the season normally goes, or went for you, I should say?
Yeah, so the season, it starts in about April and runs through to March. Oh, sorry, starts April, March, and runs through to August. Finals in August, and it is a pretty cool competition. I'm pretty honoured to say I've played there, and I've loved my time at Manly. And just following off your question, it's pretty special to get called up and play in their first 15 side, especially when I was still in the under 20s program. I think it helped develop my game a lot, just seeing the physicality and speed to play with older guys that have been playing for so much longer, and just for them to share a lot of knowledge, I guess. Probably helped a lot to develop my game. And yeah, I've loved it ever since I got to play a full year in the first 15 side before coming over here. And yeah, it was really special. We had a pretty awesome year with a great group of guys.
Do you have a favorite moment, favorite memory, or anything that's really stands out from playing in the Shoot Shield or from the your full season last year?
Yeah, definitely. We got a big game happens twice a year called the Battle of the Beaches against a team called Ringer. And they're just about 10, 15 minutes up the road from us, and it's a big deal on the northern beaches of Sydney. Pretty much everyone that lives in the area comes down to watch it, and we won this year at the Ringers home ground on the I think it was the 100th meeting that they had together. So that was pretty special. That we got to win that game. It was a nail biter. Went right down to the final hooter. So that was probably the most special moment I've had playing rugby. I'd say it was pretty awesome to get to win that.
Sounds like a hell of an experience. So moving on a little bit, you have now, Stu mentioned at the start of the show, you were the first player that the Arrows announced as a new signing for the upcoming season. How did you end up linking up with the Toronto Arrows?
Yeah, so I just got a message from a friend of mine who I played with at Manly, just saying my agent, like managers, he wanted your number, and do you mind if I pass it on to him? I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. And then I spoke to him, and he said, yeah, there's an MLR team that's interested. And I knew about Toronto Arrows because I've been following the MLR. And I was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool if it'd be them because I'm Canadian, and that'd be pretty special to go over there and play. And it was. And then I started talking to Pete and some of the to Bill Webb, the owner as well, and Mark Winnaker at the time, the manager. And I had a few Zoom calls and stuff, and it was pretty special. I was sort of pinching myself when it was all happening. I was pretty excited. And when they offered me a contract not long after, I was pretty quick to sign. I was pretty excited.
Yeah, because Pete, when we interviewed him just before the holidays, was saying that, obviously as head coach, he has to keep an eye out for who he wants in the squad and in pieces, and like saying that some guys he's like had an eye on. Obviously, also we've noticed a lot of guys from Australia which have Canadian eligibility seem to be coming into this squad. And
there's definitely a few this year as well. There's a few of us Aussies, which is nice.
Yeah, but obviously having that Canadian passport certainly helps with making those visas disappear and
definitely
moving along. Definitely. So at the time of recording, it is the 10th of January. And preseason has officially kicked off. So how's preseason going so far? And also, is this your first Canadian winter on Eastern Standard Time?
So preseason's been awesome. We've had almost a week of sessions now, and it's I'm loving it. Everyone's so welcoming, and they're all such great guys, and it's awesome just to put your head down and get some work done. And it is my first winter over this side. And the guys, all the local guys are saying it's unusually warm, which I'm still finding it pretty cold.
It's
they're saying
warm.
They're saying it's like 3 degrees is pretty warm, but I'm still pretty cold.
Just wait till it gets to February and a cold snap happens, and then
that's what they've all been saying as well. So I'm just nervously waiting for that.
Have you had to buy a winter coat, or do you get one from the team?
Oh yeah, we've got a few nice big warm jackets, which is nice, and my parents got me one for Christmas, which is pretty nice as well. I've definitely been putting it to good use. Put it on most times I leave the house.
That is recommended, even though it is. We're saying it's warm. It's really, you should be kind of bundled up still a little bit. It's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's definitely been a bit of a shock, but I'm really enjoying it. It's nice when we got training facilities are all really nice as well, so it makes it super comfortable to train in. Which is awesome.
For sure. The domes are clutch around the city at this time.
They're so cool. It's pretty amazing walking into one every time.
And so could you, as a player, you're just coming into the Arrows MLR training camp. I don't think necessarily like a lot of fans really know what kind of goes on. So can you guys just say maybe like walk us through what like the first two, I guess 1 or 2 days of training camp is like, and what are you guys like actually kind of doing on like the first couple of days?
Yeah, so the first day I got there was just all of our medicals and stuff. So we just got that all the way and had a few meetings just to get to know everyone. And then, the second day was just straight into it. We got a gym just across from our training facility, which has been really good. Keeping everything nice and close, just walking distance, which is awesome. So we got gym and skills in the morning, just in our little separate groups that we have. And then we go have lunch, and lunch has been provided for us, and it's been awesome as well. Super good. And then we have a big team training session in the afternoon with conditioning and stuff like that. And then, we're free to go home. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's been awesome to be able to train full time and not have to worry about working on the side to get by.
So how long have you been in Toronto as of yet?
A week today. Today.
Right.
Yeah.
So have you been able to adjust your body clock and
over jet lag, thankfully. Yeah. That was a bit rough for the first few days. It's a bit tired and my body's probably a bit confused, but I'm past it now, which is really good, and into the swing of things.
Have the other guys on the squad given you any suggestions for like touristy places to go to while you're in Toronto?
Yeah, so I actually, a big group of us went into like downtown on the weekend. We had the weekend off training, and we went up the CN Tower, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
It's pretty nerve-wracking up there, actually. It's pretty high up.
I hate it. It's I hate it. The glass floor, I don't.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't walk over there without getting head spins. I was pretty quick to get back in the elevator and head down.
Yeah, so you're not going to do the edge walk anytime soon. Is that on the Toronto tourism list?
Oh no, is that when you go up higher?
Yeah. No. That's, you hang off like a bungee cord at the top of the CN Tower.
Yeah, my roommate was he was like looking at it going, we should, it's only like this much more money, we should go up. And I was, no way. There's no way I'm doing that.
Did anybody do it?
My legs, I don't think my legs would physically let me do it.
Oh, if you think the wind is cold from ground level, at the top of the CN Tower is going to be far worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, even walking out the elevator, that little gap, you can feel it rushing up through there. And I have no
idea.
It is super cool view of the city, though. It's pretty special. Pretty nice.
It has a really nice view of the city. You got to go make sure you go on a clear day, though, or else you just look at clouds. So I hope it was on a clear day.
Yeah, it was on. What was it on? It was Saturday, and it actually cleared up to be a really nice day. And we were walking around, and it was pretty. Yeah, it was a really nice day. Actually, it was probably the coldest day I've been here, but it was really nice. Had a really good time.
Do you have any like Toronto bucket list items, or have you been around long enough to, I guess, like build up that list?
Oh no, I've definitely got some things I'd love to do. I mean, all the boys are pretty keen to go to the Raptors game and the Maple Leafs game, so I'd like to. Like to hopefully on a weekend when we have off, just to go get down and see a Maple Leafs game and a Raptors game. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. That's it's tough to argue. Tough to argue with that one. So one of the things that we are also obviously very curious about, and you kind of mentioned it in the press release when you were signed. You obviously are a Canadian eligible player. You have now moved to Canada to play professional rugby. Do you have your eyes set on wearing a Maple Leaf one day?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to push myself to the highest level possible. And I mean, playing for your country is the highest honour that you can get. It's the epitome of the game. So I think if that opportunity ever presented itself, I would definitely take it. So I guess we'll say, but definitely if the opportunity ever arose, I would take it. Yeah.
Well, it's also, as in, like, obviously it's not something you need to get like this second, but obviously something that you can get in the future, and then representing Canada, qualifying for the next World Cup, which just so happens to be held in Australia. So
which
maybe
is pretty cool.
If Canada can qualify for that, maybe your parents don't need to fly all the way around the world to see you play in the Maple Leaf jersey. Yeah, just something to have in the back of your mind when making those decisions.
That'd be pretty special. It'd be pretty cool.
Oh, well, we obviously wish you all the best in that
endeavor. Yeah, thank you.
But before we can start talking about games that are going to be happening in like the summer or whenever they are, we have to be talking about much closer time frame, about 6 weeks from now, when the 2023 MLR season kicks off. Now, Toronto begin their season in Atlanta. There's also been, some changes. Austin and LA have been removed. Chicago have been added. And because of the conference system, there'll be some teams that are coming to Toronto, some teams that Toronto will be going out to. Are there any locations that you're looking forward to getting the opportunity to go visit, whether that be playing the guys in the stadium or just exploring like the city and the surrounding area?
Yes, I'll be pretty excited. We've got an away game in New Orleans, which would be pretty cool. I've heard that's pretty exciting city, and they've got they've got a good team and a good field as well, and a good atmosphere down there. So I'll be pretty excited to go down there. But honestly, I'm pretty keen to play in Atlanta as well. I've heard a lot of stuff about the Fire and Ice trophy between the Arrows and Atlanta. I think that'd be pretty special for the first game of the year as well, just to get a verse them and hopefully get a first piece of silverware under the belt that early on in the year.
Yeah, that'll be cool too, because that's a Friday night, and it's not just the first Arrows game too; it's the first
game. Yeah.
Game, so it's it should be a pretty fun way to kick it off.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the Arrows' history down there.
Yeah,
I've heard from a lot of the guys that they spent a lot of time down there during COVID, and then it'd be pretty special to go down there and get the win for those guys as well.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. But we can't talk about just where you're going to be playing. It's also playing in Toronto for the first time. And yes, there's going to be like some preseason fixtures, but how excited are you to play in front of a home crowd on April 8th at the York Lions Stadium?
Yeah, I can't wait. I've heard a lot of good things about the Toronto Arrows fans here from Bill Webb. He says they're pretty awesome and loyal. So yeah, it'd be pretty cool to get to play on home soil here and hopefully put a smile on some faces and put a performance together that they'd be proud of. And I've heard great things about York Lions Stadium as well. I've heard it's a pretty cool atmosphere there.
All right. Well, as we said, the preseason's only just begun. Where we know there's going to be a preseason fixture against Old Glory DC. Hopefully, there'll be more in the near future to be announced. And we hope you get all the opportunities, Nick. And we're looking forward to cheering you on when the Arrows return to Toronto on April 8th. But yeah, thank you very much for your time today. We're going to end the podcast there. Thanks for everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more, you can do so either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Anchor FM. Likewise, if you enjoy watching our faces instead, you can do so on our YouTube channel at La Rouge Rugby. And in fact, we're across all social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, again, at La Rouge Rugby. Nick, where can the fine people find you while you're in the midst of preseason training?
Yeah, so my main social media is probably Instagram. I think everyone uses it. So my handle is just Nic Benn _. It's pretty simple. Yeah, thank you very much for having me, guys. It's been really good.
Really appreciate it. Derek, where can the fine people find you?
I'm at Brissette the Jet across all social media platforms.
And you can find me mainly on Twitter and Instagram at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, Nick, once again, thank you so much for being on our podcast. The first interviewee we have of 2023. Definitely appreciate it. Derek, thank you for joining me as always, and thank you all for listening and watching and subscribing to the Rouge Rugby podcast, where we focus on real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.